Which smart bench is right for you? When somebody asks that question, I am going to link to this video. So if you already have one of the workbenches, if you already have all of the workbenches, then you don't need to watch it. In 2020, redesigned the workbenches. Everything that is part of that is now the Paulk Smart series. So you'll see it abbreviated PS. There are only 3 benches to choose from. The bench, the big bench, and the station. The only difference between the bench and the big bench is real estate. The station is completely and totally different from the other 2 benches, except where it isn't. It's exactly the same size as the bench. But this is a tool bench. This has a miter stand incorporated in it. If I could only have one bench, it would be the station. Now I'll dive into a little bit more detail and some of the nuance for those that are just interested or that may have questions about the ecosystem that this is, how this all works together, and the possibilities. Again, because it's the ecosystem and I have other accessories that can be added for certain needs, you can also visualize that if you have a particular need that's unique to you, you can then leverage that and probably create an accessory on your own to add to the system. The cart is a mobility base for all 3 benches. Spread the horse and drop them in. That locks the horses in place and sets the spacing between the hinges, which again are the index point for the bottom of the benches. I cannot emphasize enough how productive and efficient this has made me working in a small shop. Right here, every day when I leave at the end of the day, is parked an F-150. These 2 benches are spun 90 degrees and pushed up against those bins in the back, and I back the truck right in. The station works so well and brings a smile to my face every day, every time I use it. I've got all of my bench tools. You know, I'm pulling this with my finger. And everything goes with me. I have one coily extension cord that I plug in the wall. Vacuum is on board, and the hoses, table saw and the floater hose that runs off all the other machinery. Everything is plugged in. Whenever I turn on a tool, the vacuum comes on and shuts off automatically. And if I need to adjust my shop or move it around a little bit, one finger. Another option is the cradle. The cradle just drops into these system holes. I put a couple of dowels on, and all I have to do is slide it around until the dowels match up. Once it's in place, because this one's built specifically for this table saw, there are stops built in, and it can't move side to side, or it just fits. And then I have the slot for the miter gauge set up in this particular one. So if you get the plans, this is the cradle you'll get. But with those same plans, you can build cradles for other tools. So I took that same set of plans and I built a much larger cradle for the saw stop. Not to belabor the point, but again, the same set of plans I used and then modified it to work with the rigid sander. The router table is another option you have that I have plans for. So it includes the design for the router table as well as the fence. To mount the router tables, it takes advantage of that 32 millimeter system. Again, the holes line up perfectly with the holes on any of the benches. So though I use mine on the station, I can take the router table and put it on the bench or the big bench and anywhere on any of the benches. The Paulk Smart Crosscut. Once this is attached, then I have the stops, and this is all part of the plan. There is the standard stop and the extension stop. This allows me to cut longer material. Squares up with my tracks, and I use this to break down plywood. Then I recently added this box joint jig that works with the router table, the Paulk Smart router table. Again, it lines up the system holes. I use the same bench dogs to lock it in place, and then I can make box joints. There are some other accessories, but they're not plans. I've made videos about them, and they just show you that other things you can do with the benches. So I have this wood vise with just a plate sticking to that 32mm system that clamps right on with two of those same power locks that you saw me use on the router table. A base plate for a metal vise, a 5-inch vise, and you could have any size vise you want. But again, I'm using a base plate, and I just line it up with the holes, drop in a couple of dogs, and now I have a metal vise. And then these are something that may or may not have plans in the future. These are they were first created for doing edge banding. There'll be more information. I'll either do a complete video on them, or maybe there'll be a set of plans. What's cool about these is they hang off the side of the bench, so they just slip on. They've got a single hole that will line up with any of the system holes. And then I use, again, that same power lock bench dog to lock it down. These work excellent for doors. So I can have both of these on, and integrating the use of this wood vise off to one side, both for the edge banding and for the doors. I can set these blocks so they match up, put the door on them, and then just slide the door into the wood clamp, and just a couple of, a turn on the handle that locks it in, and then I can do the mortising of the hinges, plane the closing side of the door. If you enjoyed this rather long-winded briefing on the Paulk Smart system, how it all works together, how it might work for you, then be sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to be a part of the Smart Woodshop family, and ring that bell so that you won't miss a video that we put up. Thanks for dropping into the Smart Woodshop. You stay safe and have a great day.